I'm just making a case for why vegans should be into science and into health, because that's my whole thing, is that I'm quoting the research. I'm not saying this is true because I'm saying it. I'm saying, okay, here's this direct quote from this study in JAMA. Take it as you will, you know.
All right, what's up, y'all? So in this video, I sat down with vegan science YouTuber Mike the Vegan, who's most well known for his evidence-based approach to plant-based nutrition and using studies to debunk unscientific claims from both vegans and non-vegans alike. His dedication to video making has led him to amass one of the largest vegan social media platforms out there, as well as speaking positions at various events. And I actually got the chance to meet him at one of these said events. So anyways, I hope y'all enjoy the video. All right, Mike, so what's up?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to see you again.
Hell yeah, see me again. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, it's great to have you on the channel, and we're all excited to see what you have to say.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to say it.
There we go. Stuff. Let's see what stuff you'll be saying. All right, cool. So yeah, Mike, the first question is, can you tell us about how you went vegan?
Yeah. My girlfriend just paid me some money to go vegan. She was already vegan, and she's still just paying me. That's the only reason I'm vegan.
I heard that works.
She was already vegan, and I was just, still eating dairy and some meat. And she was like, oh, I can taste that like nasty dairy animal stank when I kiss you. And so I was like, oh, fine, I guess I shouldn't eat dairy and stuff like right before I kiss her. So I was like, shit, then maybe I should stop doing that. And that was kind of like me starting to. But then she handed me the China study, and I read it all on like a road trip and went vegan on the spot and tried to pulled up at a diner and just like ate random, like my first fully vegan meal on my, besides the one that she gave me. And like that was how it went.
Yeah, you had some good beans. What was that meal, actually?
It was like really bad string beans that we had to convince them to not cook in butter, which took like 20 minutes, and like just like pasta and pasta sauce, like spaghetti and pasta sauce. Like it was really bad and not nutritionally adequate. But it was, the first time I was like, I'm vegan, it was my own decision, because I, the China study, despite the China study part of it just being, a chapter.
Chapter
so,
2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the classic.
It's just chapter 2.
Yeah. So it was all the, the Alzheimer's stuff in my family. And I was actually on my way to visit my grandpa, who did live to be 100, but he only did that because he had a double bypass. But my other grandma, had died of Alzheimer's. So I had like grandparents kind of on my mind, and I was reading that book, and I was like, dang, there's so much cardiovascular health stuff in it. I was like, man, I got
so much.
Yeah, I got to do this so I don't have to worry as much. So that's what happened. So it was a health decision at first.
Yeah, I've heard you say that before, and I really relate to it, because that was actually sort of my introduction to like at least eating plant-based. I watched the Game Changers, and then I thought, oh, really? Like, damn, like is this can't all be true, right? Even chicken and fish is bad for you? No way. And then I started binging all the books, and I eventually read the China study. Nice. But so like, when did you end up making the ethical connection?
It started happening pretty quickly to an extent, because I had always never eaten red meat on a weird like hippie ethical spiritual thing of like, for some reason red meat is like more intelligent. So I was able to like make the connection of like, okay, there's animals that I don't eat based on like their sort of ethical value. So then it was all like, oh, well, chickens are actually smarter than I thought. And now I'm not, involved in directly harming these animals, at least consciously, because everyone accidentally harms some animals here and there. But then because of that, I was saying, able to take the meat goggles off and care about animals for the first time ever fully, because I used to be the one who was like, chicken is vegetable with legs, to my vegetarian friend.
So you're vegetarian, exactly.
To my vegetarian friend, yeah. So that was funny. I always think about that whenever somebody makes a stupid meat comment. I'm like, I've made stupid meat comments in the past, but I was also 12, so that's
I'm sure some of your commenters are 12 too, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they're probably all 12. Every single one.
I had a friend tell me that, honestly, man, don't ever get too mad at the comments, because probably half the time they're 12.
Yeah,
So
they're
it's like,
12, or they hate themselves. Like that's usually the answer. Or maybe occasionally someone is right, but that's few and far between. And those aren't usually the comments that are just directly personally attacking you, which is
the trolls.
The trolls get a lot, or hate subscribers.
Yeah, absolutely. The people who are hate watching your channel. I actually have some of those too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's how you know you made
It's
it.
the
No, I'm just
engagement.
kidding.
Hmm.
Yeah, the engagement. So, how did going vegan impact your life?
I mean, it was pretty simple because my partner was vegan, and so she was good at teaching me how to make all the food and cooking, especially in the beginning of a relationship. And then with friends, I had a few friends that were already vegan, and so my friends were used to having the vegan around. That was a little bit annoying to have to deal with, of like, and then they feel. I did notice that pretty quickly when you're vegan, your friends will sort of make those
Reveal
weird guilt
themselves.
comments of
I'm just
like,
kidding. Yeah.
oh, but like you're fine with me eating these animals in front of you, right? Or like, oh, but you don't actually care about like the animals dying. You're just doing this for health. That was another one I got to, especially as
Yeah.
someone who has a health channel. So yeah, a lot of my close friends who I'd eaten meat with throughout my life were all of a sudden kind of like subtly triggered, but still polite about it. So that was an interesting, probably first one. But my parents were pretty open to it. As again, they already didn't eat red meat, so yeah, not too bad.
That's really interesting, actually, because I guess you did it from one day to the next, right?
Pretty much. I mean, I had my girlfriend feeding me vegan food, and then I made my own internal switch.
Okay, so you started your channel 8 to 9 years ago. How did you get the idea to start a YouTube channel?
Yeah, that's wild that it's been that long. I basically was like rambling off a bunch of statistics. You've probably even heard me say this before, but I was super hard to get. I will say the reason I had to read the China study and all the studies I read before, I should mention before I read the China study, I was already looking at a lot of studies about like animal protein and like what we require, because I was convinced that like maybe if I didn't have a little bit of animal protein, I would shrivel up, which is so ironic because I was like 145 pounds and 6'1", and now after being vegan, I'm like 180 pounds and way stronger than I ever was
Yeah,
then.
I
Um,
remember that era.
and so, with no animal protein or whatever, I was able to gain about 20 pounds. So, here's me down and around 150 ish pounds. And keep in mind, I am over 6 feet. So, here's me yesterday flexing really badly under the harshest lighting I could find. And as you can see, no one's going to be claiming I'm on steroids. You know, I'm still a normal dude. But again, stronger. So I was about 150, 152 pounds, and now I'm closer to 170 to 174 pounds. I went from sort of the middle of the normal BMI to still in the middle of the normal BMI, but I did get a lot stronger. Yeah. But so what I would do is, just digging into the research and like kind of like have it ready to throw out there when people were doubting. If somebody was like, oh well, you were fully just vegan for health maybe, or whatever, then I'd be like, well, we do kill 70 billion land animals per year. And then I'd maybe just kind of go on like a little rant, and then someone should be like, what, you should just make a YouTube video out of what you just said. And by like the third time that happened, then I was like, fine, I'll try to start a channel.
That's crazy. That's really so. Then, how did you even start making it? Like, did you have any film experience or camera experience? Or did you just
um
throw the camera on there?
we had, I don't know, me and my friends had kind of done little like video projects as like younger people. But yeah, I had my iPhone 5 just like I always say, strapped to my drum stand, cymbal stand, rubber banded actually, and because I didn't actually get a real tripod, and I was like, I'll just try these. And then the first few videos got 0 views, like between 0 and 10 views.
Are those archived? Because those sure as hell aren't on your channel.
No, they
I didn't
are
see
the
those.
same. That vegan blood kills cancer one had 0 views for the first 3 weeks, or like something like that.
That has like multiple thousands. I think it has like 10,000 at least views, right? Or something like that. 8.7
I
thousand. I don't know why that's the number
haven't.
that's popping in my head. Don't
I
worry. I was looking at that the other day.
I
I
just
was just
haven't looked
like,
at this in forever.
and you're
Holy
probably like, and I don't
crap!
want to look at it. And I
Oh
don't want
my
to look at it.
god! It's so 73,000. That is
70
so. I
what?
70,000. I should react to this video as like reacting to my first video ever.
Yeah, you should.
That
Damn.
would be
Oh God.
hilarious.
I would
My
hate doing.
head.
I would hate doing it. I was thinking about doing it for my own videos, but yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so that's where my channel got going, and then Happy Healthy Vegan shouted me out in response to video to Unnatural Vegan,
Oh no
and then
way.
that's how it all started. And I got
That's
100 views,
crazy.
and I was like, I've made it. I got 100 views.
I would say you're one of the OG vegan YouTubers. How have you seen the landscape change over the years? Like, was Earthling Ed even? I don't think he was even vegan, or he wasn't around when you started, was he?
Yeah, I don't remember him in the beginning. I might have just not known about him, and I kind of thought of him as like just one of those UK guys. It was like Klaus from Plant Based News. So the guy who started Plant Based News was making little news reports in his greenhouse, Klaus in the greenhouse.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I don't know if he had Earthling Ed on or something, and that
Wait,
might
is
have
that
been,
what it was called?
well, it's called Plant Based News, but it was Klaus in the greenhouse, and then he would have other
That was
people
like the
report.
show,
Yeah.
Klaus in the
Well, he would just
Greenhouse.
say, "Hey, it's Klaus in the greenhouse,"
Oh,
and then
that's
now I
funny.
don't.
Okay.
He'll occasionally do interviews and stuff, but obviously a lot more people are creating content on there, and it's largely written too, which is great to have that. But Earthling Ed, yeah, he just popped up. I don't know if he was there in the very beginning, but it was like freely the banana girl was dominating the scene, and there was a lot of also other like pseudoscientific vegan people making all sorts of claims that I didn't agree with, which was part of my motivation for starting. Um, and it was hard because it was kind of like a vegan boom, which was, I mean, it's understandable because it was the first time that it was coming into the main, like becoming available easily on
Yeah.
YouTube. Which when people are first learning about something, you're going to have that initial boom, and then even if everybody did stay vegan, which obviously they didn't, but then new people came vegan, I would say the population is not dwindling. Maybe it's not growing as much as it was, but we had a big spike there, and so it was like a lot of sort of focus, and I was able to grow then probably easier than I'm able to grow now.
All right. So when I went vegan, me and one of my friends, he's like my only vegan friend, we would always watch your videos. And so I asked him what question he wanted to ask you. So here it goes. Jeff, this is your question. Has the amount that you think about veganism changed over the years on a daily basis?
Mm. I feel like it's changed in certain ways and in certain other ways. I feel like in the beginning, it was me sort of being angry about discovering new things, and there is new crap that comes out, and it's like discover it, and I get freaking angry. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, Tyson. I might do a video on this. Tyson is now dumping. We found that they've dumped from slaughterhouses like 300 million pounds of waste and have destroyed like so many waterways just from that.
I forgot about that.
That's
Yep.
new. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's new from like 3 days, a week ago in the Guardian.
Oh, whoa, whoa. I was thinking about something else
Oh, they
completely. Okay.
also are. There's a lot. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Is
yeah.
that there's
Okay.
always been something. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in that sense, I still think about it in that way, but like on a daily basis, I sort of have my like on vegan days and off vegan days. So like if I'm starting to record a video or get a video going and research it, then I'm like in vegan mode. But then if it's like my days where I'm not doing that, I'm just like playing sports and hanging out with people and chilling. And then obviously it still comes up around food and like the people that I know, or if I'm hanging out with them. And I do have, it is funny because I do also now, as of the last couple of years, I've been doing these vegan potlucks. So I'll have like 15 or more people come over. I was doing it every couple of weeks. I need to do more now, but we would do a different vegan cuisine every day or every time, whether it was like Indian vegan or like, even did like Ukrainian, and like we did so many things. And so we would have and then the vegan discussion would come back up, and like obviously people are talking about veganism like the whole time. So it was like
Yeah, yeah.
normally, historically, I've been like mainly talking about veganism through the camera, and then here and there with some friends, but it's become even more regular of like people are coming and like sitting around the table and talking about it with me, which is in that sense has changed. But then obviously I've always gone to like events and vegan restaurants all the time, talked to people and known other vegans, and like played video game. I ended up playing video games with other vegans too, which is funny. Like
Wait,
there
say
was
it
this
again. You play
playing
video
video
games with
games.
vegans
Yeah, like there was one
or
time
as the
I was
vegan?
playing like Apex Legends, and I
Okay.
have my vegan handle, and just this random person is just like
Okay.
end speciesism, and that
Oh,
was
hell
like
yeah.
5 or 6 years ago, and like I've met the guy in real life and like hang out with him and
That's
here and there,
awesome.
and we still play some stuff sometimes. So he's yeah. So I've like met people that way or played games with the vegans and stuff, and we'll just like talk about vegan stuff and like play. So yeah, it's been. I feel like to answer the question as a whole, I've continued to pretty much think about veganism as much in the same way. I do understand. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this just gets kind of old to like make everything about that, because I am very multifaceted. I do care about a lot of things. I do like music. I do, I
Yeah.
am concerned about the climate in other ways. I am concerned about other social issues. And I also just like to like make things too. So like,
Yeah.
you know, I
You used to post some gardening videos.
I do have a garden. Yeah, I just installed the drip irrigation system, which I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah.
And I have just like the free garden plans on that garden video. But it's, you know, like if I make that type of video, it gets like a quarter as many views as my normal
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's it's not something I
It's like a
focus
10
on
out
as
of
much.
10 kind of week.
Yeah. And but it's fun. I like making stuff, and that's like a good way to make stuff, and
Yeah.
like physically, and like restoring my house, renovating my house fully, and stuff like that. It's just,
Yeah.
but yeah. Anyway, that was a long-winded way of answering that question.
No, that's cool. And also, just kind of going back to the video game thing, just like a random question. Is it vegan or not to kill animals in video games?
It's funny because I still have the impulse to not do it. Like I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn. There was like a few weeks where I played it. It was pretty easy to beat quickly, but um there's like times where in order to get better in certain ways, you have to like hunt a boar and get like boar bones, and I was like putting
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
off a lot in the game because I was like, I don't want to shoot these boars or whatever. um so yeah, I do still kind of feel that, but then at the same, but you know, in that sense, they're just like literally pixels on a screen. um but yeah, I'm like a lot, like I'm not going to download like a hunting or fishing game,
Yeah. No, totally.
which a lot of people
Yeah.
play.
I'm talking like Zelda Breath of the Wild. Like,
Oh
I'll
yeah.
be like, I really don't want to kill this animal.
Well, I
I was
mean, you
like,
could say the same thing as I also don't like, I don't want to kill humans, but I still have fun playing like first person shooter
exactly.
games just to get my reaction times up and
Exactly.
stuff, which is why I like playing like a little bit more cartoonish of those. Like I don't play like the war related games,
Yeah.
but I'll play something like, you know, I guess Apex Legends is the furthest I've got, where it's like you kind of have cartoonized characters like the Jamaican lady Lifeline and stuff, and it's like
I don't really
stylized.
know Apex, so
It's fun.
yeah. But yeah, I guess you're not out there playing Call of Duty. You're not calling in the nuke at 25 kills.
No, definitely not.
So a lot of people know you for your really thorough science-based videos. Can you tell us how you got so good at that in the first place? How, like you were mentioning earlier, you were just able to rattle studies off?
I actually was talking about this recently with somebody because it was kind of going all the way back to like high school, middle school, whatever. Like I was always really interested in watching like science TV channel kind of programs and stuff. And like the Discovery Channel. And I don't know where it was. Because I don't remember having like the best science education. I mean, I had a decent science education, but then I still did well on like this test scores, like better in science than any other like test on like the
Yeah.
ACT
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
things like that.
Those
So I've
SA,
always
not on the
been.
SAT.
Oh yeah, I took the, yeah, I did. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I actually thinking back onto like my brain development of like I didn't get great scores on those things, other than I did good on
Really?
science and ACT, because I
Mike the
didn't
Vegan.
believe in standardized testing, and so I was frustrated about it, and so I didn't really like learn how to do the test. And I
Yeah.
also feel like I had weird like late brain development where like I remember going into the first SAT that I took, I think I was like maybe 15 or 16, I don't know. And I distinctly remember not knowing the difference between subjective and objective, which is like so ridiculous that I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And like for some reason when I was like 18 or 19, I also just feel like I developed late period. Like if you look at pictures of me when I was 18 or 19, you know, I had like zero
Yeah.
facial hair and stuff like that. The dog just pushed his way in. So I don't know what happened there. And then I don't know when my reading comprehension like kicked in. But I'm really glad it did, because maybe it's when I went vegan, my brain actually finished developing. No, it was
Exactly.
long
That's
ago.
what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Mike the Vegan was stupid until going vegan. That can be the title of this video now.
That's your next? Yeah, okay, that'll be it for this one.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened
Did
there.
veganism make him smart? Let's put that as the title.
Yeah, but then I also, so because I was vegan for a while before I did start, my channel, but I was reading a lot of studies, and I just felt like for me, I needed to be convinced by studies.
Yeah.
And so I thankfully had a good understanding of how studies worked and how science works. And like, I still made mistakes in the beginning, but I still understood like, that scientific research was better quality of evidence than like anecdote or random
Yeah.
crap like that. So that's where I came from. And then I don't know where the science came from. I guess I have like some doctors in my family, and maybe that kind of came on. I kind of regret not just becoming a doctor.
Yeah.
Um, but then I got my master's in public health, which at least is in that direction a little bit. So I don't know why. I don't know. I think it was interest, a lot of
Yeah.
interest in learning about health science, just reading stuff over and over again. If I didn't understand something, reading about it or watching a video on it from somebody who knows what they're talking about, doing
Yeah.
that over the course of 3 or 4 years, as I then started my YouTube channel, um, watching like all the nutrition facts videos,
Yeah.
actually spending a lot of time on PubMed, learning whatever all these scientific words mean, like
Like C-reactive
myelin
protein,
sheath.
LOL.
Yeah. And just parts of the body, like what's your myelin sheath, how the immune system works, how cholesterol works. Just I guess I kind of ADD hyperfixated on those things, and
Yeah.
then that allowed me to learn a lot about it. And then um, it also helped to have really intense criticism about every single sentence that you said for years. So
Yeah.
anytime that I made a mistake, I have someone who's like, oh, well, actually, I'm in the medical field and you said this slightly wrong or whatever. And then, so I'm never going to make that mistake again. And so just that being basically put through the ringer of saying everything perfectly for 9 years and then having the expectation of, oh, I have to say everything perfectly, and learn and really actually do the research to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or at least I'm never going to be the utmost expert at the topic that I'm talking about, but to at least do that topic justice and get the facts right and convey the expert opinion in like an accurate way as well. Cause that's my whole thing, is that I'm quoting the
Absolutely.
research. I'm not saying this is true because I'm saying it. I'm saying,
Yes.
okay, here's this direct quote from this study in JAMA, take it as you will, So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I find that that's really cool because a lot of times I'll try to make some more science-based videos or research-based videos, and sometimes I think of you and I'm like, dude, how does he read these studies and like know exactly what to look at? Because I'll watch your videos sometimes for inspiration too, just to like see how you're explaining things. And what I always try to do is I try to never interpret a study myself. Actually, I always say, all
mm,
right, what did Dr. Greger say? What did Dr. Barnard say? What did
yeah.
these medical professionals say? Because a lot of the times they'll look at a study and they'll say, oh, actually, this study is kind of junk science because, they
Mm-hmm.
compared this to this, so they didn't, account for that. And it's like, wow, I would have never seen that. I mean, I'm just like
Mm.
schmo blow over here. How am I?
Blow.
Yeah, I'm not gonna know that.
Yeah, that's hard. And there are, like I said, there are times where I did make mistakes, especially in the beginning of like, and sometimes it's the overcare, actually trusting some people too much. Of like sometimes Dr. Greger would say, like, I think he said like in one video, which might have just been a little mistake on his part too. He was like, oh well, vegans that just walked and blah blah blah, describing the Ornish studies where they were, yes, 98 99% vegan, but they still had like low fat yogurt, which is not vegan. And so
Yeah,
you're stretching the term of vegan. So I remember even just saying like, oh, this study on vegans, because he said that. And then someone was like, no, they were actually eating a plant-based diet. And so sometimes there's mistakes there. So yeah, it's a quagmire, but I
mm,
realized in the end it's better to like get some little details wrong and still put stuff out there and learn than to just not do it at all. So now I
I love
know
that.
all
Yeah,
of those things and am able to, after looking through a thousand, I don't know how many studies I've looked through, to now actually understand the studies.
a
And then of
handful.
course doing master's in public health, understanding the statistics a bit more, like how studies are done. It's been a good learning journey for sure.
Absolutely, and it's cool to hear people like because a lot of people look up to you, and I mean, of course, me included, and to see that even someone like you is learning and getting better. We're all human in this, so
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've been making mistakes. It's like it's can be damaging, but it's generally gonna do more good to like get to learn from your mistakes and be wrong. And so yeah, there's definitely a few. Yeah. I definitely, that's why I want to react to some of my older videos as well, just to be like, oh well, I kind of got that wrong or whatever, like, and
yeah.
just laugh also at myself. It'd be
Yeah,
funny.
and honestly, sometimes like the comments that are hurtful, not hurtful. Sometimes the comments that are negative, I sometimes look at them and I think, does this person have a point? Like maybe I should review what I said there. Maybe it's not as good of an analogy as I thought. You know what I mean?
mm,
Like for certain things. So I don't know if
yeah,
that happens to you.
I mean, yeah, sometimes comments are right, but I would say like 90% of negative comments are just like emotional bleeding out of those people, or just weird vitriol where they're, basically using you as therapy for themselves in like a weird
Yeah.
way of just like trying to bring you down a rung on the ladder so they feel a little bit better about themselves. Just classic bullying behavior.
Yeah.
So I generally don't listen to that stuff. I mean, like it's become very obvious from my experience of getting those for years that they are often illogical and wrong, or like just people being ridiculously emotional and like quitting, like they can't watch a video because I have a hair that's like out of place or something, you know, like that's the type of reaction you can get, which I do have messy hair a lot of time.
What? I
But
can't
like,
believe people make
yeah,
comments
things
like
like that,
that.
or like, oh, you had a piece of lint on your shoulder, I can't watch this. And if that is the level at which people are going to be reacting, you have to understand that that same sort of just like emotional knee jerk reaction, or just like in that case, it could be like obsessive compulsive disorder. That's a little bit different, but just that's where people are coming from. Something so meaningless, yet being so judgmental, or actually changing their behavior based off of it. That like when somebody says, "Oh, like you look shitty" or something, which I did like sleep on this side of my face like pretty hard last night, so I am seeing it. But like, we'll get comments like about my appearance, and I'm like, oh man, like, and I will say that's the thing, like that I have learned a lot about how people see. They put this lens of how they see the world, whether they're vegan or carnivore. And I love there's that one dude who did that sort of experiment where he would post his physique update on carnivore forums saying, "Hey, I've been carnivore for like 6 months or whatever, and look at my physique update." And people would be like, "Oh, you're such a great example of what meat can do," blah blah blah. And he's a vegan. And so it's just these people, total lens through the lens. And then he would go on and say, "Hey, here, I'm a vegan, guys. What do you think about this physique update?" And they'd be like, "You're literally about to die. You look so frail." And like, you know, this is a pretty muscular guy, and it's just completely internal, completely projected. You know, we experience the world just as a projection in our
Through
brain,
different lenses,
essentially. So
totally.
you're seeing that more and more than ever. You know, I've been like diagnosed with hypothyroidism because I have like light eyebrows. Like, even though my
I thought you were
thyroid,
transitioning to a real doctor. I was
no,
like, that's a weird transition.
even though like my thyroid is stimulating hormone is smack dab in the middle of the normal range, it doesn't matter. And it's because I have like genetically, I have light facial hair, and
Yeah.
I've always had
Yeah,
light
yeah.
eyebrows. People like think that I pluck them, have thought that I've plucked them ever since I was
Yeah.
young. But and I was eating meat. But no, veganism caused
Yeah.
my hypothyroidism, which people are very sure that I have based off their own just like
Yeah.
delusions, honestly, at that point, which is wild. So, and then to totally flip it and be critical, vegans will do the same thing of like somebody is vegan and then they quit being vegan and they'll be like, oh, they look like shit now that they're not vegan. And it's like, well, they actually kind of look the same. It's only been like a month. And you're maybe projecting a little bit, or like they might have always looked bad in certain lighting, certain lighting
Yeah.
unflattering, but now you're noticing it because you're trying to see fault. And so
Yeah.
that is a really interesting thing, like looking at confirmation bias and stuff and how people
Yep.
view other people. But yeah, in terms of hate overall, I definitely never think it's a reason to stop. Sometimes it is kind of crazy to see like how people react. Like in other people's videos, or like when someone's doing a response video and criticizing you in person, that can be like a little more intense than just like the little text. And I did
Dude, I
see,
would
yeah,
never watch one of those.
yeah. Or just like that is one thing that made me realize like, oh, this could be a little bit dangerous. Is there was that video I did, a lean mass hyper responder video, complicated topic, you can watch it. And in the beginning I just used Sean Baker as a quick example of how people are shouting the results from the rooftop. I just clipped him saying, you know, and not in all cases does LDL cause heart disease. I don't even remember what it was. Literally, he makes a video saying Mike the vegan took me out of context. He's a criminal. Basically, he's a liar. Blah blah blah. Comment of just hundreds of people being like, Mike the vegan needs to learn through trauma, and like Mike the vegan is like horrible manipulative
Ooh.
person who lies. Mike, he's a liar, liar, liar. And then my comments got flooded with a random Sean Baker people being like, you're a liar. I'm like, this video had nothing to do with Sean Baker other than he was just an example of somebody who is excited about these results, who is a carnivore. Literally, that was it. I didn't mention him again in the whole video. And it was just wild. And they're like, oh, he's editing clips like the lamestream media is not including the whole truth. I'm like, it's not my responsibility to include all of Sean Baker's viewpoints on something when I'm just using him as a quick intro example and not, and then
Totally.
responding to the actual study the whole rest of the video. Like, it's wild. It's wild. The fact that people get like violently angry because
Yeah.
the narrative was manipulated by somebody else,
Yeah.
which is, it was really, that made me realize. And that's why, like, I generally don't, I don't do things locally as much, and things like
Oh,
that,
that's a
just to like try
shame.
and keep attention away from me physically, or like, you
Yeah.
know. So
That's actually heartbreaking to hear. To think that you don't feel as free to do stuff because of the way that people have responded to
I mean,
you
I
out of
still
context online.
go around the world and like to events and stuff, but like I'm
Yeah.
not going to be like,
You're not going to the carnivore carnival.
oh well, yeah. Thankfully, there's no carnivore around here. Although there are like local carnivore people. Like I ran into like my old music teacher, who I don't think recognized me because I was like 10,
Oh no.
and she was carnivore, and I was talking to somebody about literally like the environmental impacts of animal agriculture, and she came up and was basically like, those are all made up. There are no negative environmental impacts of animal agriculture. And I was like, well,
Yeah,
what
you
about
didn't
the
hear that?
FAO reports that showed that it's between like 14.5 to 18% of global emissions? And she's like, well, I don't have the reports on me. And then she like struck
Yeah.
off, and I was like,
Yeah.
what the heck? Like, you literally are delusional and brainwashed, and like it's actually reaching like small town people around me, and it's just like freaking weird. Or like, yeah. So that's why part of the reason I make so many carnivore response videos is because it's a lot
Yeah.
of it's completely nonsensical, and they're just following pseudoscience and stuff too.
Well, it was funny because on one of your latest videos, you were talking about how bad the carnivore diet is for the environment, and like no one cares, no one
Yeah,
ever mentions. Because if you
yeah,
think about it, right, like carnivore would be terrible for the environment, like
yeah.
so bad. Like I actually hadn't thought about it until you brought it up. Like you had the little charts and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I was like, yeah, what the hell? Like, why aren't people talking about this? Like that is so bad. I mean, I guess because it's like a big joke, anyways, and I don't think anybody really takes him seriously.
Yeah.
Um,
But they do. The thing is, problem is, it does fit into the narrative that most people want to believe, and that is that the meat that they're eating is absolutely fine and isn't negatively impacting the environment. And in fact, actually, meat is the solution. The Alan Savory thing of like the
yeah,
regenerative grazing stuff, which is, in my humble opinion, failed to make any difference at all. And so it just justifies even more meat consumption, which people then go, oh well, I can't really afford that meat anyway, so I'm just going to eat factory farm meat. So they're not even eating it within their own ethics, usually, as I've seen personally a lot of
that's a good
times.
point.
And so yeah, that was the context of that video, was that that was why people quit carnivore diet videos, going through a bunch of carnivore quitters, and just having zero of them mention the environmental impact at all,
Yeah,
like at all. Like they just didn't care. And it was just like, oh, I had these health issues, blah, blah, blah. Or like, oh, I had a stroke. And it's like, yeah, that's understandable. Like, obviously, you're going to quit because of that. But just
that's
none
kind
of
of
them
funny.
across the board. I watched like 10 videos, not a single word about the
Yeah.
environmental impact of ruminant animals. And they might have just not cared in the beginning. It might have just not been on topic for them. Maybe they do care. But it was disappointing for it not to be emphasized.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier, sometimes I make videos too where I do some research to find out stuff about the health, about the environmental impacts of veganism, and those take a long time. So, are you doing this all on your own, or have you been able to research, film, and do all this editing stuff and put stuff out on a weekly basis? I think I remember you saying that you haven't missed an upload for like 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah. It is pretty
That's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I've delayed like a couple days, but I haven't like fully missed a week or more than a week. Yeah, for me, it's a mix of, thankfully now I have enough base knowledge, which I feel like can be a little frustrating for people having to hear me say the same crap. But having the base knowledge to, like, if there is a new study, I can always pad with that. So I can research really deeply into like what the new information is, and then I can pad that out with what is really important, relevant
Yeah.
information that I already know.
So you've got
And
like a
then
repertoire.
yeah, and then I will just go into like a few research fugue state where I'll just like have 5,000 tabs open and just like go insane sometimes. Um, but I do know what's good that I've learned. One of the most important things that I've learned, or I've just known, is like sometimes it's time to just cut it off when it could be better. But
Yeah.
it's better to have something that's released than have something that's better that's not released.
Yeah. Then
And
miss an upload.
yeah, especially if you're getting 90% of the way there. Like, there's every single video that I've ever done, there's another good point that could have been added to it. But it's
Mm.
okay that it's not in there, and I needed to get that video out. And that's where perfectionism comes in. I remember there was a vegan creator. I won't mention them anyway because they have their own issues. They're not vegan. But they were so perfectionist that they were considering filming a video and then to get perfect audio, overdubbing over themselves like they
What is
do in
that,
the
DVR or
movies.
whatever? Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done that in a video
Oh,
actually. I
you
had to do that in a
have?
video.
I'm like,
But
and his name is Dinesh.
no, it came out well though. You would never be
Yeah,
able to tell.
that's
I'll
good.
send it to you after.
But
You
the
would never be
idea
able
is
to
to
tell.
just set that as a standard for making YouTube
Yeah.
content going forward, all
Yeah.
content. Like it's just and they never made another video. That's perfectionism is a thing. It can be very paralyzing for people. And so I just say, good enough.
Yep.
Good enough. And then there's, sometimes there's a little mistake. And then lately I've been doing twice as many videos because I have a friend who I've hired as a video editor for one of the videos. That's the last few weeks. I've just been doing twice as much content, which has been
Yep.
a slightly shorter video earlier in the week. And then, which has been a little bit rough because my strategy to not burn out has been to not do vegan videos earlier in the week. And now I'm
Yeah.
making an extra one, but it's been pretty easy. Like I've been trying to just do just a really simple topic and just like crank it out. However, the microplastics video is one of those that we did, and that was like a 20 study video. Oops.
It must have taken a while, huh?
Yeah, but there's easy ones. Like right now, I'm about to release the one on that cheese award. It's probably going to be out by the time this video is out, where like that vegan cheese got like disqualified from the Good Food Awards.
Oh,
you hear about that?
yeah.
And going into that story, and like that's an easy one. Like I'm not having to go too deep into research, and like it's funny and fun, and she was able to throw like some hilarious animations in and like adding stuff. Like it's great. Like I'm like, let's have, because it's like the dairy corporations like squashing this like vegan cheese. So we have this corporate guy in his office on like the 5th floor or like the 50th floor looking out. It's like corporate overlord just being like, we need to crush all the vegan people. Like the vegan people need to be destroyed. And like a joke about like the corporate guy, like his pants are like soiled with debris or whatever, and then she just like animates like a brick of cheese being like shat out of him, and I'm like, this is great. This is exactly what I need. Someone who can just edit like this.
I've noticed that you've started to put out more videos, and yeah, man, the perfectionism thing is real. I suffer a lot from that too. And the way that I always say it is, man, I don't know how it was for you, but for me, when I was in middle school or high school, or whatever, the perfectionism really served me well because it helped me get good grades and do what I wanted to do. But now it's really tough to not let it paralyze you. And you're mentioning that your videos, every time you put one out, you think, oh, I could have added one more thing in there. It's funny because like on the viewer side, I don't know if I speak for everybody, at least for me, I'm like, damn, what a good video. What a nice, complete video. I'm not sitting there being like, man, like that video sure could have used one more study to convince me.
Yeah. That's good to know. Yeah. Just getting enough. Yeah, that's funny. But you've had a lot of positive reinforcement for being a perfectionist, getting that A, just stamping it into your brain, perfectionism every week for, 12 years or however long your college or your school experience was. And so that's wild, but it's just good to know when to cut it off.
So like science seems to be like a really big part of veganism for you. However, that doesn't seem to be the case for all vegans.
Oh, for sure.
What do you think about the overlap between vegans and people that don't trust the science?
That's an interesting one. I mean, I don't think you have to be scientific at all to go vegan. In fact, vegan health science is not veganism. That's just one argument for why it's okay to allow yourself to be ethically vegan. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I look at it now. But yeah, there's people. It does scare me actually, and this is the case with any group of people. There's going to be people that are like pseudoscientific or whatever, denying the scientific consensus on stuff. You can still be vegan and not want to harm animals and not believe that the earth is round. Like Tim Sheaf, when he was vegan, I got in a debate with him because he was a flat earther, about whether or not the earth was round. So you have somebody who's, staunchly ethically vegan who literally thinks that the earth is flat.
Interesting.
So that's, yeah. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. I'm just making a case for why vegans should be into science and into health to A, be healthier and represent veganism better in that sense. Absolutely. And B, just to like be around longer. Why not? I'm trying to get everybody to be healthier. Obviously a lot of people that watch my videos aren't vegan. It's just getting somebody to be healthier and a bit more plant-based would be a great compared to not at all. Right. So that's my angle. And I do, Yeah, I do also like to arm vegans with actual valid scientific knowledge, as opposed to making those pseudoscientific claims. A lot in the
Yeah.
beginning of like dairy leaches calcium from your bones because it's so acidic.
Yeah.
Well, why is it so acidic? Oh, because it has proteins. But then your plant-based protein powder is okay. Like
Yeah.
like things like that needed to just be shot down. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there is
Yeah.
probably an effect, and it probably is like the artery clogging, like starving your bones of the nutrients that they need, and stuff like that, which is why we're probably seeing data there. But then it's also just calcium equation there too. So that stuff like that is complicated, and there's nuance to stuff which is hard to convey and not like newsworthy. So yeah, that's my goal, is to like make sure vegans are healthier, make sure they're more armed with actual valid arguments and knowledge, and then
Absolutely.
also able to critically think and respond to things, improve the state of veganism and the vegan views in general, and then also be able to like advocate for their own veganism and defend
Absolutely.
themselves so that they're not as stressed out being vegan if they know that they
Hmm.
can go to Thanksgiving dinner and just be able to talk about the environmental impacts of animal products when they're asked about it, so they don't look like an
Yeah.
idiot when they say that they're an environmentally motivated vegan.
Yeah.
And they say, oh,
Totally.
why? Well, what does it actually do? Well, I heard somebody say that like the impact was kind of big. And then they'll be like, oh, well, I saw this White Oak Pastures report that said that vegan, that like the freaking grass-fed beef is like carbon negative. And then if they know what they're talking about, and this is a really rare, but this is an example, they could be like, oh, well, when the peer-reviewed research of that came out, those numbers changed a lot. Why is that?
Yep.
Oh, well, that was funded by like Kellogg, who
Yep.
sells
Yep. Yep.
that. And like, so there's always more to the story. And
Yeah.
it's good to be armed with scientific knowledge and literacy and critical thinking skills. All those
Yep.
things are really important.
Or even like what you're saying when it comes to the environment, like that wouldn't come off the dome for me.
Yeah.
But what I would say, I think the easiest one to always go back to is, well, we'd only use like a fourth of the land, just like those are easy things to
Yeah.
always go back to. And yeah, I mean, I remember when I was just starting my vegan journey, I'm serious, like you were a huge part of that. I'd always look at videos, like questions that I would have. I'd be like, oh, I remember watching specifically like one of your omega-3 videos 2 times. So I was okay, but ALA and DPH and EPA or whatever. Is it DPH? Am I saying it? DPA?
EPA and
Yeah.
DHA. Yeah, it's all
Did
good.
I mess it? Yeah, DPA. See, I guess I got to rewatch the videos. I was like, I think I'm about to mess it up on stream or like on live. But yeah,
The
EPA
principle.
and DHA. See, it came out. It was the nerves. But I remember watching that twice, and I think you also give vegans the what's it called? The tranquility, the calmness. What's it called? Like the feeling good. They can live healthfully on a vegan diet. You certainly did that for me.
And for me, it's also about just having a good time with it. Like there's a lot of people who say that they just watch my videos for the jokes, even though there's other people that think all my jokes are really stupid and that they shouldn't be there.
The jokes.
But
The jokes.
but that's the only reason I'm able to continue doing it without burning out, is that I can just be goofy and be myself.
The talking mouth, though.
Oh yeah, I just did a Photoshop. I need to do more of that. I just set up my green screen again for the first time in years, because I was like I'm building a studio in my basement, and I was like, that's kind of done enough. Although I still need to put acoustic batting down there and stuff. But yeah, so that'll be fun. I'll get some more green screen footage in the future. But yeah, it's just about having a good time and then helping vegans. Also, just like fostering a little bit of sense of like vegan community too, of like, oh, we can come and like kind of laugh about this cheese competition or whatever, for
Yeah, I
example,
love that.
and comment about it, and just kind of like just let loose on some comments that aren't too. I do sometimes, I do get a little bit worried though, that like if I'm even just expressing some criticism of somebody that I believe is valid, then the comment section just like will amplify it to the next level. And I sometimes have to be like, hey, be nice about this too. Like a
Yeah,
recent video
I
I felt a
noticed you
little
do.
bit bad about was the Alex O'Connor / Cosmic Skeptic video, for example. I was just, pointing out, I was just like, oh, this is interesting. He's saying that vegan bodybuilders are unethical. I don't think this is the case. I'm going to respond to that. And then the comments are like, just like ripping into him, saying he's like a total idiot and like all of this stuff. And it's just like,
Yeah,
I'd rather not have that negativity. And so I need to, like, in my next video, I really need to remember of like, let's just tone down the like just the vitriol a little bit. And it's just a few comments here and there that were really, really bad.
yeah.
But in general, the comments are positive too, and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I watched that video and it was a bit painful to watch.
Yeah.
At least it was just painful to see him saying what he was saying.
Yeah.
Being like, Dude, no, no.
Yeah, I mean, just the idea that it's just and just the principle of trying to hold vegans to such a high standard, or telling them that they should be held to such a high standard, like they should hold themselves to such a ridiculously high standard, that eating a couple hundred extra calories is unethical. Which I still, again, I don't agree with, because vegan bodybuilders prove that you don't need to eat meat to eat muscle, which, if, like I
Yeah,
said in the video, if one of them turns one person slightly plant-based, then they're going to be saving
yeah,
way more animals.
yeah,
So that's my feeling with that. And but it's fun to do the responsive videos. People like them more. I just need to remember, I need to put like a note on my camera that's like, when responding, remind people to be civil, like,
yeah,
because I'm just getting caught up in the details, and then it's like, oh, because I'm criticizing someone, it's like considered a negative response to them, and then it's like, oh, I don't want to do that, but some people take it as like a stamp of approval to just be like super negative towards somebody.
yeah.
Not the
No, I
case.
feel that. Anyways, and on that point about the ethics of it too, I had a discussion with Debug Your Brain, like a similar one, and I think he brought up a really good point about that too, which was it's really just about seeing animals as objects, right? Like commodifying them,
Mm-hmm.
because we can run the numbers and see, oh, like calorie versus calories, how many animals are you saving? But I kind of like this take, and I did agree with that take. It's just, are we reinforcing that animals are objects or not? Yeah, and that argument really resonates with me.
Yeah, that is really key. And talking about like difficulties being veganism, my brother had this girlfriend in the past, and that was what I did handle it a little bit badly too, but I also think they handled it badly. But we had like a really bad Facebook argument that resulted in major family issues based off
What?
that whole principle. It was going way back to, like, it was Standing Rock, which I was like very pro Standing Rock. Obviously, like, I'm anti-oil, but I was commenting. I think the comment was like, the PETA had posted that like you can have your Thanksgiving meal and not eat like them or something. It was like, it was using de-objectifying language for animals.
Yeah.
And oh, it was, no one had to die for this Thanksgiving meal, and it was a vegan meal.
Mm,
And she made an apt point of like, well, actually, because for Thanksgiving, a lot of Native people were slaughtered so that Thanksgiving could like become a thing.
oh,
And
that's
so I was
based
like, yeah, I
actually.
totally agree with that. But just so you know, I didn't think that she understood, because people were getting mad in the comments of like, why are they saying it's one? I was like, well, they're using de-objectifying language, because they're saying they're giving that animal personhood, because they
Right.
believe that people should have animals. And then it just devolved into like a horrible argument. And
Yeah.
yeah, we don't need to go into that. But that is something that, yeah, I've had a history of interfacing with people about whether or not animals should be considered objects.
Or not.
And
Yeah.
there was more tensions than that in that conversation. But it's something that I think does trigger people, because it means, like, for people that are trying to give animals personhood, it's implying that they're eating people. And then it's also saying, and then they try to say, oh, well, then now you're saying that people are worthless. And it's like, no, we're actually saying that both should have value. Even if you want to value animals slightly less than humans, if that's your prerogative, you can still give value to animals. Like, what the heck? Or like, at least recognize that they're suffering. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, we all do that with dogs already.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's what we say. That's what we always do with dogs. You don't call it, like, people would get offended if you called their dog an it. People would be like,
Yeah.
excuse
That's
me.
a family
What?
member, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Straight up. When I was watching you at the vegan camp out, somebody raised their hand and asked you a medical question. And
Mm-hmm.
your reply was something like, well, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you feel about people seeing you as a source of medical information?
Yeah, that is a little bit rough, and that's been like one of my dilemmas from the beginning, and why I've always been like, I'm not saying this, these scientists are saying this. But then it's also like, well, a lot of these scientists that I'm citing aren't medical doctors. And yes, medical advice is something that we reserve for medical doctors, but public medical information isn't only something that that doctors can put out there. And that was part of my motivation for getting a master's in public health, just to be like, even from like an ethical perspective, it's like, if I am dedicating this much time to putting out public health messages,
Absolutely.
then I might as well get a better education, and that way I'll, be more responsible for it, understand, more of the ethics of it, and just it just felt right to do that. But it definitely, especially in like the first few years, I was like really trying to just never make any claims at all, But now I'm
Yeah.
okay saying, basic facts, or like if it's something that's, well, usually what I'll do is, according to this doctor, you should do this. And it's like, that's it's not my personal advice, but it's like, if I were to give advice, that's what it would be. Like, or like just freaking wear sunscreen, things like that. It's like, I don't have to be a doctor to
I
say
saw that
that.
video. I loved it.
Yeah. I don't have to be a doctor to say that. Or just to tell you facts about how lycopene decreases or increases like your UV resistance in your skin a little bit. So it's like, just encouraging people to eat freaking tomato sauce is not that much of a medical claim. But then I do go deep into diseases, and that's where it can get a little hard, because it's like, if I am coming at somebody who, say, has endometriosis, and I'm giving them more information, scientific information about it than their doctor bothered to give them, then they start to kind of mix information sources up in their head. And yeah, they might wrongly try to seek me out for medical information. But at the end of the day, like, I can point them to studies, and I can point them to other things or experts that are focused on that. Like, if somebody's asking me digestive questions, I'm always like, Dr. Angie Sadeghi, gastroenterologist, go there. And that's been my way of tackling that. But yeah.
What's one thing most people get wrong about veganism?
I think what they get wrong, and this is just the human mind, is that they are so caught up in their preconceived notions about what vegans are that they can't even see the vegans right in front of them. Of like, literally, I will be at the gym or something, and I'll be lifting more weight than the person who's saying that vegans can't build muscle. And it's like, and that's how we see the world, like, if you've ever seen that, you can maybe show this graphic where, like, if you put the Coca-Cola logo in like certain patterns, when it's a black and white image, the brain will see red over it. Most people will, at least. And it's like, there's no red there, and that's what people are doing to vegans. They're coming at them with all these this complete pre-made image of what vegans are that's inaccurate now. And it's becoming more and more inaccurate. Like, there's more vegans out there that can kick your ass than ever could, like things that's like true. That. And things are changing. And then it's also partially not their fault, though, because there really is a concerted effort by the meat and dairy industry to put out anti-vegan information, Absolutely. Put out information that all of these plant-based products are hyper processed and will kill you faster than your carcinogenic meat. Like, it's wild. Anyway, that's my answer for that one.
It's a good one. Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's so much messaging going on from the meat and dairy industry. Sometimes it's hard to get anything straight if you're not informed. Yeah. And so, Mike, what are you up to now? Like, what's your main focus?
Well, there is that doubling my content, which has been huge. That's like my short-term focus. I also have my vegan travel company. We went to Costa Rica, and before that, through another company, went to Iceland and Yellowstone. So I'm going to do another Costa Rica trip.
All right, when's the sign up?
I need to figure that out. Yeah, you should come, especially.
Dude, I guess
you're a little bit further than Mexico now. Yeah, and I was considering doing one in Europe this year, but I already had so much going on that I couldn't really get it together. So there's that. I wrote my little book, Level 5 Vegan, got that out, but I might start working on like a big actual full length book as opposed to a little guide, because that was a guide for long-term vegans. So I've got a lot of stuff in the works. I also want to do a little artistic short documentary that I don't want to give away. But I don't want to, it's kind of a secret, but I'm going to be working on that. And yeah, so I got a lot going on.
All right, cool. All right, well, Mike, thank you so much for coming onto the channel, for chatting with us today. If you guys want to reach him, he's at Mike the Vegan on YouTube. He's Mike the Vegan on Instagram. Any other place you want to plug?
Yeah, MIC the Vegan, like a microphone, which is confusing. But I also have my little TikTok account, which I need to post more on. But check me out any of those places. And yeah, thanks so much for having me. That was great. Great to catch up.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see each other around, yeah?
Yep. Vegan camp out. See you there.
There we go. See you there.
All right.
Peace. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to support the work that I do financially so that I can make even better videos, you can do so with just $1 either on Patreon or right here on YouTube. So more info on that below. But in the meantime, a huge shout out to my existing channel members and patrons. Y'all are the real MVPs. And if you like this video, check out this one that I did with, none other than the Earthling Edicus Rexicus. Yes, the man, the myth, the legend, the man who made me vegan. It's right here. And yeah, hope y'all check it out. Hope y'all enjoy, and I'll see y'all in the next one.